Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker, which is a spin-off sequel series to the 2021 Suicide Squad movie. Or as I like to call it, Suicide Squad, we're sorry and we tried harder this time. But in all seriousness, this basically takes one of the most over-the-top characters from that film, John Cena's Peacemaker, and not only explores his origins, but makes a pretty funny, irreverent, and definitely not politically correct show that happens to take the Peacemaker to take on Project Butterfly, which, if you thought Project Starfish was out there, Project Butterfly is also pretty out there. But that should be expected when it comes to us from the writer and director of the Suicide Squad, James Gunn. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story is that Peacemaker somehow manages to survive what happened in the last Suicide Squad movie. So he's sent on a mission to work for a man named Myrn, who works closely with Amanda Waller. Yes, Viola Davis does appear in this show as well. Basically, Viola Davis's Amanda Waller is punishing the people who knocked her out and who went over her head in that film, and decides to have them sent to work on this mission with Peacemaker as punishment. And considering how big of a jerk Peacemaker is, it's pretty much a punishment for them. But when Peacemaker, throughout his days of just running around, shooting appliances, having relations with women he barely knows, and doing all that stuff you'd expect a person like him to do, when he's doing all that, he discovers that there might be more to this Project Butterfly than expected. While we also meet several other members of the DC universe that haven't been put in a film or show yet, like Vigilante, Judo Master, and a bunch of other ones that I'm sure will come in later on. Now, while this show does retain the R rating and a lot of the very inappropriate humor that the Suicide Squad had, it doesn't feel like it's trying to copy one of these shows that came before, like, say, The Boys or Invincible from Amazon. It very much still feels like its own thing, mainly because James Gunn manages to have a lot of the sensibilities he had during his days working with Troma, the guys who worked on the Toxic Avenger films. James Gunn certainly is allowed to go all out with this, very much how he did for the Suicide Squad. And despite the fact that John Cena doesn't have the same ensemble cast to work off of, he's able to work off the employees that are forced to work with him pretty well. But I especially like his relationship with Vigilante, since Vigilante seems like the world's friendliest mercenary, who's also possibly a little more messed up than he is. And I also really like that his father's played by Robert Patrick. So I could even joke that maybe Peacemaker is a Terminator himself, since his father's the original T-1000. And considering that Peacemaker's father was a Peacemaker before him, and the fact that he has a pretty weird-looking cult thing going on in the second episode, I do think that he'll become more relevant as the story goes along. This show really seems like it's making fun of political ideals, too, especially considering Peacemaker's whole "I will achieve peace by any means, even have to kill a bunch of innocent people to get it" thing. But I don't think it's shoved in your face like, say, Santa Inc. or, one of the shows where people use identity politics when they have to think of a theme and they're not smart enough to think of something that hasn't been done before. It really feels like it's just mocking. It really just feels like it's mocking, the right wing, but it also does it in a really funny way that doesn't feel like it's preaching. It happens to mix up jokes like that with jokes about classic 80s bands, ridiculous conspiracy theories that no one should believe, and also callbacks to the previous Suicide Squad film that actually add a lot to Peacemaker's character. That he's a massive jerk, but he's kind of trying to actually work with people this time. So yeah, this feels like it's the kind of show that only James Gunn could make work, and I'm really excited to see more of it. John Cena is excellent as always, and I can't wait to see what the rest of Peacemaker has to offer. See you next time.